All right, everybody, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Welcome to the Virtual College Exploration for all Illinois students, sponsored by the Illinois Association for College Admission Counseling and StriveScan. We have just a few housekeeping announcements before we get started. You can use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to type questions to any of us as presenters at any time throughout the presentation. We are in webinar mode, so your camera and microphone are off. The panelists, we cannot see or hear you. So again, use that Q&A to reach us. And then this is just one of many different sessions that are going to be happening throughout the next 5 weeks. And you can check out the full schedule at IACAC.org if you'd like to register for any additional sessions. And then last but not least, this presentation is being recorded and will be available within about a week at the same website, IACAC.org. My name is Sylvia Hernandez. I am one of the managers of Illinois recruitment at Michigan State University. And we are going to get started with our presentation in just a moment here. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Steve, as I bring up our other presentation.
Hello, my name is Steve Landgraf. I'm the other manager of Illinois recruitment. Sylvia and I are actually both based here in the Chicago area and work with students throughout Illinois. Sylvia works with our students in Lake and Cook County, and I work with all of our other counties. So thank you all so much for taking time out of your evening to watch this, or maybe you're watching the video later. Thanks again for taking about 45 minutes out of your evening to come and learn about Michigan State University. So how this is going to go, Sylvia and I are going to talk for about 20 minutes and just go over some of the basics about Michigan State University, who we are, what we have to offer, what applying to Michigan State looks like, what kind of scholarships you can earn, especially as an out-of-state student from Illinois. And then we have 3 fantastic students who have given up their time to join us for a student panel as well. So you're going to be able to hear from them about their experience at Michigan State, why they chose MSU, and you can certainly ask them questions in the Q&A as well. Again, we wish that we could see and hear you. Unfortunately, we can't, but you can definitely engage with us through the Q&A. And if we don't get to your question, either answering it typing out an answer in the Q&A or by answering it over the video, we will get a transcript of all the questions. So if there's something we didn't get to, Sylvia and I will definitely be able to follow up with you later as well. So I'm going to turn it back over to Sylvia to get us started, and then you'll see me back here in about 10 minutes, and then we'll go on to our student panel. Thank you, guys.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Steve. And I'm assuming that everybody can see our screen here with the presentation. So I just want to start with some basic background information about Michigan State for y'all. And so as you can see here, if you're not familiar, Michigan State is located in East Lansing, Michigan. We are about 3.5 to 4 hours away from the greater Chicagoland area. And so if you're looking at this slide, I would not recommend that you fly into Detroit. Because it's definitely a very easy drive, easy train ride if you want to jump on the Amtrak, or even a bus ride away from Chicago. And because of that, we do get a lot of students from Illinois. Illinois is the largest out-of-state population that we pull from. You can see here just last year we had over 5,000 applicants from Illinois. Most of those students coming from the northern and western suburbs of Chicago, but we get, again, students from all across this great state. You can see too here we have a pretty active alumni association. The Chicago Spartans, specifically our Illinois Spartans, are active in this area. So if you want to come back closer to home, it's very easy to connect afterwards. Now, Michigan State is a really big place. We have, as you can see here, just about 50,000 students. We are about the 8th largest school in the country, and we actually really like the fact that we are a big school. We really embrace that fact. And we want you to know that you have the opportunity to make your college experience, honestly, anything and everything that you want it to be. You can also see here our freshman class size, about 8,500 students. We have students from all 50 states, over 130 different countries. And so the student body is very diverse. You're going to be meeting people who are very similar to you, and you're going to be meeting people who are opposite of you, and everywhere in between. So it is a really great thing, being a big school and being able to just be, around lots of other people. Another great thing about being a big school is that we offer you so much in the way of academic programming. As you can see here, we offer over 200 areas of study. And with that, some of you on this call may know exactly what you want to major in, and that is absolutely wonderful. Some of you may have no idea yet, and that's okay too. We do not admit based on major at Michigan State, so if you want to come in knowing exactly what you want to study, again, that's awesome, and if you want to come in as an exploratory student, you can do that as well. Our largest areas of study are going to be business, education, engineering, our sciences, psychology programs, things like that. We also have 3 residential colleges, and I just want to briefly touch on this because residential colleges are a way to make Michigan State feel smaller. So if you're listening to me talk about how many students we have and how many programs we have, and you're like, wow, that's a pretty big place, how can I find my way? The residential colleges are one way to do that, where you have a almost liberal arts school feel on a large college campus. Our 3 residential colleges are James Madison, Lyman Briggs, and the Residential College for Arts and Humanities. And we can always provide you with more information about those if you're interested in learning more. We do have 25 programs that rank in the top 20, and we are a top 100 global institution. So no matter what, you're going to be getting a great education at Michigan State. All right, so what are some ways that you can kind of build upon your academics, but outside of the classroom? We have many opportunities for you to expand on your education, and these pieces here are very important because this is really what makes you a well-rounded college student. Entrepreneurship, we are a top 25 school for entrepreneurship. Our students can minor in entrepreneurship no matter what their major is. So some of you may think automatically, oh my gosh, I have to be a business major to go into entrepreneurship. That is not the case. Again, you can add an entrepreneurship minor to any major that MSU offers. We have a startup weekend every year. We even have study abroad programs toward entrepreneurship and innovation. Undergraduate research is also a big part of the experience at Michigan State. If you're like me, I automatically think white lab coat and science when I think about research, but Michigan State, yes, we have a lot of science-based research going on. The most widely used cancer drug that's used across the United States was found at Michigan State, but we also have research going on in our College of Education, in our College of Agriculture, things like that. So again, you don't have to necessarily be a science-based student to be involved in research. We also have over 275 study abroad programs. Study abroad is a big piece of the education at Michigan State, and we really encourage our students to study abroad. I think one awesome piece as an out-of-state student is that you automatically receive a scholarship to use toward any of our 275 study abroad programs. You get $3,000 if you go on a program that's 8 weeks or less, and you get $5,000 if you go on a program that's more than 8 weeks. And we have programs that range anywhere from just a week long, maybe during spring break, to an entire year long if you want to be away for a long time. Our students are very active outside of the classroom as well. So when we talk about kind of some of those fun things to do, we have 900 clubs and organizations. Those range from like academic clubs and professional organizations to religious groups, service groups, cultural interest groups, Greek life, huge intramural sports. So again, you name it, we have it at Michigan State. And if for some reason we don't have something you're looking for, it only takes you and a few other students to start your own club or organization. We're also NCAA Division I for varsity athletics. So if you're interested in having a school where sports is a big part, I call it the rah-rah atmosphere. Our teams are on TV. It is a great place to be when we're cheering on our Spartans. And we know that Big Ten football is coming back. So I know some people are really excited about that, but it's definitely a piece of the academic experience and the social experience at Michigan State. And all of this really goes into some of the statistics that you see here on this screen. We have a kind of a neighborhood system when it comes to living on campus, and we do require that all of our students live on campus for their freshman year. But the neighborhood systems also have engagement centers. And so in each of our 5 neighborhoods, you have an engagement center that's really going to get you connected to campus. So again, a way to take this big college campus that is Michigan State and make it feel a little bit smaller. I kind of call the neighborhoods suburbs. They're little suburbs of our campus. But you have tutoring centers, health and wellness, campus police liaison, your resident assistants, intercultural assistants, your dining facilities. Everything you need to be successful is in that engagement center and in your neighborhood. And that plays into our 92% freshman retention rate. We do not lose a lot of our students. A lot of our students that start with us at MSU really get involved in that campus experience. They get engaged in campus, and they, again, stay with us. We also have a 95% placement rate. we know that employers, they're not just asking you, where did you go to school and what did you get your degree in? They're asking you, what else did you do while you were there? And so clubs and organizations, entrepreneurship, research, study abroad, those are all ways that you can make yourself very marketable upon graduation. And as you can see here, that placement rate, it's 12% higher than the national average. So again, students are very, very successful at Michigan State. So I'm going to actually turn it over to Steve now to talk to you a little bit more about some additional information.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. I do also want to give a special shout out to any of our folks who are not from the Chicago area. Like Sylvia said, we get a lot of students from Chicago, but I'm actually from Southern Illinois myself. So shout out to anybody who is not a Chicago student. If you're coming from an area like around St. Louis, where I'm from, it's about a 7.5-hour drive to East Lansing, or again, you can certainly fly into Detroit or Lansing as well. But we decided that I should be the one who has to talk about money. So always a big question, as it should be. So this just shows you the base price in terms of what you're gonna pay as an out-of-state student for tuition, room and board and fees. So tuition is about $40,000 per year. Room and board is a little over $10,000 per year. So that gives you that total sticker price. One thing to keep in mind as you look at that tuition and fee number, we have something that's called a block tuition or flat rate tuition, where anywhere from 12 to 18 credits, you're paying the same price. So that really maximizes that price you're paying for tuition. So when you may not know what 12 to 18 credits looks like as a college student, that's anywhere from 4 to 6 classes generally per semester, you're going to be paying the same price. So that's really great for those of you who want to maybe double major, minor, graduate early. So just keep that in mind as you look at those tuition numbers. But we never want to talk about tuition without talking about scholarships and how that plays in. So we definitely want to go to our next slide here and chat a little bit about scholarships at Michigan State. There we go. So in terms of aid, this number where it says 69% of freshmen receive aid, that's for the whole university. For out-of-state students, the scholarship and tuition structure is a lot different. So we give out a lot more of those scholarships to out-of-state students. So just know that that percentage is definitely going to be higher for you all as an Illinois student. You'll see on there over $1 billion awarded in financial aid in 2018 and 2019. And we've got some great resources in here in terms of national scholarship search tools like FastWeb and scholarships.com that you definitely want to look into. One thing that I will say just as an adjustment to this slide, when it says submit ACT and SAT score for higher merit scholarship opportunity, that's actually not true for this year. We are test optional, and I'll go into a little bit more about what that means because I know some of you maybe have not had an opportunity to take an ACT or SAT test and you're unsure if you're going to be able to this fall. So we'll talk more about what that test optional phrase means, and keep in mind that scholarships are going to be awarded through March. So you definitely want to file the FAFSA. You can start doing that actually October 1st. That's how you can tap into some need-based aid from both the government and Michigan State University. That's really important in terms of college affordability. But for us with Michigan State, we're going to be awarding scholarships into the spring as well. And when you apply to MSU, as this slide notes, you're automatically going to be considered for scholarships as well as a spot in our honors college as well. So this next slide goes into a little more detail about what those scholarships look like. So if you do choose to submit a test score, we're going to go by your highest composite test score for the ACT or SAT. We don't super score the test, we'll just go by your highest composite for either one. And then on the bottom where you see GPA, we're looking at your cumulative GPA for freshman through junior year from your high school. And we're going to go by the highest GPA listed on your transcript. So if your school utilizes a weighted GPA, that's the one we're going to be looking at. Some schools do not utilize a weighted GPA. Either way, we're going to use that highest GPA. So if you are submitting a test score, you can see very clearly from this slide where you're going to fall between a $5,000 to $15,000 out-of-state academic scholarship. But again, I just want to reassure you, you're not going to be at any disadvantage if you choose to apply test optional. And so far from the applications we've been receiving, we've seen that a pretty good majority of our students are choosing to apply test optional. That may change as more test dates to open up, but right now we have a lot of students who are electing to apply test optional. So you're still going to be considered for the same range of scholarships from $5,000 to $15,000 per year, whether you submit a test score or not. We have a very holistic review process, and we'll utilize that in terms of considering your application and your scholarships if you don't send in a test score. So how do you apply to Michigan State University? So some of you have already applied or you're working on that. We know we may have some folks watching this who are sophomores or juniors, so this may seem far off, but for you seniors, a lot of you have already applied, and this is really the main season to be applying to schools as a high school senior. So we are on both the common application and the coalition application. Those are great ways to apply that you can check off several different schools at once with one application. And then we have our regular application at admissions.msu.edu as well. We don't have any preference between those applications. Just there's no need to fill it out more than once. If you're applying on our website or on the Common App, just one application is fine. So that's step one. You've got to fill out an application. You also want to ask your high school counselor to send us an official transcript for you. Sometimes you have a tool where you have to select that yourself. Either way, we want that official transcript directly from your high school. We're going to be looking at your grades from 9 through 11. We typically don't look at your senior year grades a whole lot. We do want to see you have a strong senior year schedule, but in terms of your grades for senior year, we're typically not going to be looking at that a whole lot. Definitely looking at students to have some sort of college prep curriculum, hopefully, maybe some AP or IB or honors classes on your transcript as well. So we're going to be looking at that for freshman through junior year. You do also have to write one brief essay as well, and you'll see on this slide that letters of recommendation are not required. The only thing that is not specifically mentioned on this slide is the application fee. There is a $65 fee to submit your application to Michigan State University. Some students do qualify for a fee waiver, and it asks you right on the application the criteria to qualify for that fee waiver. So we don't need any other extra paperwork or documentation for that. So 4 things to submit your application. You've got to fill out that app online, send us your official transcript, pay that $65 fee or qualify for the fee waiver, and then also write that one brief essay as well. So as I keep mentioning, we are test optional for this fall. And you're going to see that a lot of schools have made that decision because so many test dates have been canceled, unfortunately. So we know that that's still kind of up in the air for the fall. And even if you are able to take a test, you're maybe not going to have the opportunity to test 2 or 3 times to continue to boost your score. So we are opening it up that we are completely test optional. You won't be at any disadvantage if you don't send us an ACT or SAT score. You do have to make that decision when you apply, though. You're not able to switch that. When you apply, you're going to have to make that decision if you're applying with the test score or not. And if you do apply with the test score, you're actually going to self-report that. And if you are able to take the test again in the fall or the spring, you're going to be able to send us those updated scores as well, but you will self-report those and we'll verify those scores after you've been admitted. So if you can go ahead to the next slide here. Okay, so this talks about our application deadline. So November 1st, that's really important, especially for out-of-state students, that you apply by November 1st. It's not binding in any way, but that is our early action date. What that means is that if you apply by November 1, first of all, you're gonna hear a decision no later than mid-January. It's probably gonna be earlier than that. To be honest, it's usually quite a bit earlier than that if you're applying by November 1, but no later than mid-January, you're gonna hear that admissions decision from us, get that acceptance packet from us, but it also means you're going to get maximum scholarship consideration. We are going to continue to review files and award scholarships throughout the year. As you can see from this slide, we eventually move on to a rolling admission, but especially with our honors college, some of those monies are awarded really at an earlier basis because we do a scholarship competition for honors students every January and February. So practically speaking, you really want to get that app in by November 1st to make sure you're considered for money from the honors college because they do that scholarship competition. They give out paid research positions to some honors college students. And if you are invited to the honors college, you're going to get at least an additional $5,000 or $13,000. So especially for some of those items, again, you really want to apply by November 1st. You'll also see that May 1st date on there. That's kind of known as National College Decision Day every year, May 1st. There may be some flexibility on that in the spring. There certainly was this past year because of some changes going on with the coronavirus. So we will see what that looks like in the spring, but typically May 1st is that target date where you want to be finalizing your college decision and then moving into that process of making your commitments and finalizing your housing as well. That's kind of your deadline for doing those items. So you could go ahead to the next slide here. Unfortunately, as you might have guessed, we're not doing a lot of official campus visits right now. We would love to be hosting students on campus as we normally would. We normally have, hundreds, thousands of students coming to campus every week, every month. And unfortunately, because of everything going on with the coronavirus, we're not able to host in-person visits throughout the remainder of this year. But if you go to our admissions.msu.edu/visit page, it's going to tell you about all those different virtual visit opportunities that we have. And if we are able to start offering in-person visits in the spring, we'll certainly update it on that page. But you'll see a lot of great resources, including some self-guided tour resources. We know, especially for our students that live close by in the Chicago area, you might just elect to drive to East Lansing, Michigan on your own and walk around, drive around campus. And you are certainly welcome to do that in an unofficial capacity. And we have some great resources in there in terms of doing kind of a self-guided tour for you as well. Could go ahead to the next slide here. So we definitely want to make sure you have all of our contact information. Again, Sylvia works with our students in Lake and Cook County of Illinois. She's got a great picture with Sparty there. And then next slide with my information. I work with basically students from all the other counties in Illinois. There's 102 counties in Illinois. So I work with all the other counties. So definitely take note of our email addresses. Again, Sylvia's was HERNA100@msu.edu. She's your contact person, again, if you're in Lake and Cook County. And then my slide here, landgr17@msu.edu. I'm your contact if you live in any of the other counties. And obviously, we have both met. Sparty, big celebrity in the world of Michigan State University. I wish that we could hear feedback from the students so they could tell us who has a better Sparty photo, but we can't. Maybe our student panel can weigh in on that. Who has a cooler photo with Sparty? Again, check out our website, admissions.msu.edu, for all the information that you need to know before applying to Michigan State University, and a lot of basic info about other areas that we didn't get to touch on, like academics, housing, things of that nature. And some of that will probably come up in the Q&A here. So I am going to invite our students to join us. If they could all unmute their mics and turn on their cameras. We have 3 great students. One of them is actually a recent graduate of Michigan State University, and 2 of them are currently students at MSU, but they are all from the Chicago area of Illinois. So I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves. Why don't we go in alphabetical order by first name? So why don't you take it away, Carly? Just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll definitely try to hit on some of the questions in the Q&A.
For sure, thank you. Hi, my name is Carly Lewaniak. I'm a junior at Michigan State University. I'm currently studying political science and psychology with minors in Spanish and law, justice, and public policy. I absolutely love it here. Currently, I am in East Lansing. This is my apartment behind me, but I am from Wheaton, Illinois. It's kind of close to Naperville if you don't know quite where Wheaton is. It's a nice town, suburbs of Chicago. But yeah, here on campus, I'm involved in like a lot of extracurricular activities, and I also love going to all the sporting games, and I'm also a tour guide on campus.
All right, I think I'm next. Hi, I'm Carolina. I'm originally from Geneva, Illinois, which is a western suburb of Chicago. Right now I'm actually living in California. I'm working for E&J Gallo Winery, which is the largest winery in the United States. So that's pretty cool. I am a junior chemical engineering student. I'm in the Honors College at Michigan State. I'm a tour guide. I did undergraduate research my first and second year as well. I was a tutor on campus. So there's a lot of things that I've got going on, and I'm really excited to be here today to share about it.
Hello, and I guess I'll finish off the student panel. My name is Joe Longo. I just graduated from Michigan State. I'm currently living in Madison, Wisconsin, working for Epic Systems, which is a electronic healthcare record system. While I was at Michigan State, I got my degrees from the College of Arts and Letters in Mandarin Chinese, and then James Madison College in International Relations. And then I had minors in Global Public Health and Epidemiology, as well as Defense Studies and Leadership. In the 4 years that I was there, I was a resident assistant for 3 of them. So I worked with incoming freshmen and all the fun little kids who wanted to live in the dorms their 4 years. And then I studied abroad twice, once with MSU and then once through the State Department. And then I had various on-campus jobs, and I interned on campus. So if you have any questions about any of that, I'd also be more than happy to respond to them.
And where are you from and where'd you go to high school? I know that feels like forever ago, but just in case people are curious.
Yeah, wow, what a lifetime ago. Yeah, so I am from Bolingbrook, Illinois, so also kind of near Naperville. And I went to, for my first year, Plainfield East High School. And then for the sophomore through senior, I was at Illinois Math and Science Academy.
Great. Well, thank you all again for agreeing to be a part of our student panel. Sylvia, I believe you've been kind of monitoring the Q&A a little bit. Are there any questions you think we should get started with for our students?
Yes, I actually have 2 questions, and so I'll give you those both, and then you guys can decide how you would like to answer those or who. The first question is in regard to roommates. So how is your freshman roommate determined? And then the second question is, how does a university handle food allergies in common eating areas?
Yeah, I'll let y'all take it away. I mean, you are all very experienced at doing this as tour guides and things like that, and ambassadors, so I'll let you all take it away.
I can start it off with the roommates. So there's multiple ways that you can, I guess, pick or like elect a roommate to live on campus. First off, you can go in random. So basically, like MSU Live On will send you a link and a specific time that you can sign up for your housing. And this is just like automatically generated. So like every student will get a different time and window to sign up. And you'll be able to see like the openings on campus, like whether it's in one neighborhood, another neighborhood, or another neighborhood. And then with that being said, let's say you pick East neighborhood because there's a lot of openings there, then you can choose like your exact room. And that's kind of like how you would go in random. So then another random student would choose like the room with you. But then also, if you want to sort of like have like a match, I guess, with another roommate, there's different Facebook, like there's like a Facebook MSU probably for like 2025 or whatever year like you would be graduating from MSU. And you can kind of just put in like a little bio, like, hi, like I enjoy being outdoors, like this is like my sleep preferences and all those types of things. And you can kind of like meet different roommates that way. And then just when you're signing up for your room, you put in like a little code to ensure that you're with that roommate. Super fun. I did that my freshman year and it worked out really well, actually.
Yeah, to follow up on that, I also found my roommate through Facebook, and it was really just sort of an online dating profile to say, here, this is who I am, this is what I like to do. And then you can talk with a bunch of different people, FaceTime them if you want. I think on top of that, there's an app called RoomSync that some students utilize in order to find another roommate. And it's similar to just putting in your preferences, and the app will sort you with people who it thinks that you'll match well with. So that's definitely another option. In terms of food allergies, Michigan State's really great about this. We have personal chefs at all of our, I think it's 11 dining halls. Oh, I hope I got that number right. There's a lot. And something that's neat is above every single food item, they have a little sign on it and they'll have the common allergies listed. And then on top of that, if you want to take it another step, you can work with our dietitian. It's free. Go ahead, schedule a meeting with them, and they'll make sure that at every single meal you have food to eat that's prepared in a way that's completely safe for you. And on top of that, we now have a dining hall that's free of the top 9 allergens, which is really great. And what they've done actually is take the same exact menus that they use all across the campus for the different dining halls and have adapted them so that they are free of those top 9 allergens. And they actually it's independently tested and everything like that. So Michigan State really does a lot to make sure that their students feel not only safe while they're eating, but also make sure that that dining experience is enjoyable because their food is great.
Have any of you gotten to eat at that hall? It's
Yes.
called Thrive. It's at Owen Hall. Yes, I got to eat there when I was back on campus for the scholarship competition, for the Alumni Distinguished Scholarship Competition. And yeah, the food is really fantastic. And I'm not really even allergic to anything. And I was like, this food is amazing, especially the chicken strips. They were all very, very good stuff. So Joe, anything else you want to add in terms of roommates, kind of the residential experience, eating on campus? Anything else you want to add?
I think they both answered those questions really well, but I see that there's one more question about what it's really like living on a campus in a dorm. And as someone who lived in the dorm for all 4 years, I think I can comment on that a little bit. I definitely think for some people, right, like you come into college and, you know, maybe dorm life is for them. For some people it's not, and after their first year they want to go into an apartment. But overall, I would say that the dorm life is generally enjoyable for most people. It's a great opportunity where we have like 16 residential buildings that you can live in. And in each of those buildings, you know, there are floors you can live on. There are co-ed floors. There are single gender floors. There are specific communities for those that are looking for things like substance abuse help or anything along those lines. So it's a really great opportunity to find people who are like you. And additionally, if you're in one of the residential colleges, then there are opportunities for you to, again, be with people who have similar interests as you or similar studies and passions. Plus, on top of that, there's the honors college floors in several of the buildings. So if you're part of the honors college, then there's an opportunity to live on one of those floors where, again, you can be surrounded by people who you might have things that are, you have interests in, or are also just as dedicated to their studies and passions and such. But yeah, overall, plus additionally, if you are part of a dorm and you realize that, you're having problems with it, or I know a lot of people, like when I first came to MSU, I was a little bit worried about, maybe I like my roommate, maybe I don't. That's kind of what the residential assistants are for, the RAs. In that, like when I was there, I made friends with all my residents. If they had issues, I was there as just like a sounding board to bounce things off of. We hold events so that you can get closer to people if you want to. Everything completely voluntary, so if you're really not feeling it, you don't have to go to my events. But yeah, so overall, it's a great experience. I would say a good number of students end up staying for their second year on dorms, and even third and fourth if they choose so. So, I mean, I think like the proof is in the numbers that people generally like it. Plus, it's closer to class, closer to food, all that fun stuff.
Yeah. And I saw there was another question about like, how long does it take to get around campus? How long does it take to kind of walk to classes, get to dining hall? So maybe if you all could touch on that, but also just the experience as an out-of-state student, getting back and forth to home, especially around Chicago. Maybe if you could touch on kind of getting around campus, but also getting back and forth to home too.
Yeah, so I guess in terms of campus, it's super accessible. One thing you're gonna learn right away is ride the CATA buses. Those things with your best friend, if it's rainy, if it's snowy outside, they run like a dream. We have actually an app specifically just for a bus system. And it'll tell you, if you don't really know where you're at yet, it's really great to utilize. You can say, I need to get to the chemistry building and I'm over here in Brody neighborhood and I don't know where I'm at. And you can just pull it up. Let's say, go directly here, hop on this bus, and we'll get you around. So that's definitely a great resource. Also bike lanes, those are all great. We have an MSU bike store if you ever need to service your bike. There's just a lot of great ways to get around campus. I would say things are close and things are far. That's sort of the general theme of Michigan State, just depending on where you're at. I know sometimes I had maybe 20-minute walks, and sometimes I would roll out of bed and walk downstairs and the class is already in my residence hall. So it's definitely a mix of both. And then in terms of that traveling to and from home, I took the Amtrak back multiple times. And then outside of that, you will meet other students from the area that you live in sometimes. So for example, Carly and we met through the tour program and she actually gave me a couple of rides home. So you're gonna meet people along the way who can help you out with that as well.
Also, just to add to that quickly, one of the great things about the site that we use to register for classes is that there's an application for you to, when you put in your classes, it'll tell you where all of them are located, like building wise, and then how long it would take for you to get to each class. So then when you're building your schedule, you're not, fitting a 35-minute walk and a 15-minute break. So it's really easy to kind of like build those distances in and be cognizant of how much time it's going to take to get from place to place and make sure you're not rushing.
And also, just to go off that too, classes look a lot different than they do in high school. So you don't have to do like back-to-back classes throughout your whole day. You can have like a class and then have like schedule breaks. You can get lunch, work on homework, and then go to your next class. So then you can also factor in like travel time too. So whether you want to walk, bike, or even take the bus, it's a good way just to kind of figure out your schedule in that way too.
All right, Sylvia, any other questions? I see you've been answering some of them, typing out answers. Any other questions you think we should answer live here?
Yes, so someone would like to know, how would you characterize the academic pressure and workload?
I might soapbox a little bit here. Something I absolutely love about Michigan State, we are on a 4-point grading scale. And what that means is when you walk into a class, it is established at the beginning, right in your syllabus, exactly what points you're gonna need in order to get a certain grade. So they pretty much say it might go lower and we might give you a little bit more leeway, but it's definitely not gonna go above this. And this is something that I really appreciate. I have a couple of cousins who go to different schools all around, and some of them don't have it. They have the curb, and that just means depending on how everybody else does in the class, that'll determine how you do. So the great thing about that 4.0 grading scale is it really makes it a collaborative work environment. Everybody wants to help each other out. You know, if you get a 4 point, it doesn't hurt me. It only helps me because I can use your information and we can work as a team. So that's definitely something about Michigan State that I would keep in mind when you're looking into schools is, do they have that curve? Are you going to be working against your peers, or are they on that set grading scale, which I think definitely fosters a collaborative working environment.
Oh God. There we go. I think what I'd add to that is that the academic pressure and workload are almost like not even the most important variables when it comes to determining your success at college, whether you go to MSU or wherever. I think what's more important is for you as an individual to quickly and almost immediately figure out like how to work on a schedule, how to be able to plan out your days and plan for tests and papers and all those things, because at the end of the day in college, there's a lot more work than there is in high school. And the pressure, the workload, all of that, it does depend on what you're studying, what classes you're taking, all of that, how many credits you have. But what's not going to change is how much you can focus on getting your work done and if you can get it done early. So if you can actually adhere to a schedule and if you can learn that now, I think that's a fantastic skill to have. And no matter what you're studying, you'll be successful.
So just want to remind everybody, we have just about 10 minutes left to go. Continue typing in your questions in the Q&A. Again, if we don't get to your question, we're not ignoring you. We can always follow up. Sylvia and I can follow up via email as well. So we will definitely follow up if we don't get to answer it here. But I would love to just hear a little bit more about how Michigan State sets you up for either internships or jobs. Maybe just, I know you all touched on it a little bit, but maybe go into a little more detail, because I feel like that's a big question we get from parents especially, but also students, and they hear those numbers like 95% job placement rate, 500,000 alumni, but maybe you could put some context into that of how Michigan State prepared you to get internships and jobs.
Just to start off with something small, one of my professors, he is in the College of Social Science, and through him, I've been able to have internships like throughout this past summer and then like small little projects throughout the year. But something that's super big is just really getting to know your professors and people that you have class with, because a lot of the times our professors, that's not like their only thing they're working on. Like obviously they're teaching their class, but they can also be running labs and having private research on the side. So just really getting to know your professors and people that you're working with. They have opportunities that you just won't know about until you can go in and ask them. So that's exactly what I did. And I was working with like the Palliative Care Association of Michigan over the summer, which was super cool because it's right up my alley. But just really asking questions for anything that you're interested in. More often than not, your professors will help you on the tail end of it.
Something that I've been utilizing a lot, we have career centers. They're great. I would definitely recommend utilizing those resources. So to get the current internship that I have right now, I've signed up for our career fair. Michigan State brought in over 300 employers, and this was just the engineering career fair. And I was able to show up and walk around, speak with all these different employers and give them my resume. So they set up those events specifically to bring those employers onto campus and give you an option to interact with them. Actually this fall, I've been involved in the virtual career fair looking towards next summer, and I've been totally utilizing all the resources that they offer. So they've had different webinars on how to navigate the online career system, how to use the specific portals that they're going to be involved in. I've done back and forth emailing with one of the career center advisors to have them look at my email, help me figure out how do I set up a LinkedIn, because that's not something I've done before. So I've really had hands-on contact with actual people who have been able to help me polish everything up and make it myself the most presentable when it comes to employers. And they also do mock interviews as well too, which is really great. Sometimes you get jittery and you don't know what to say, so you can sit down with them and they'll walk you through exactly what you might be asked. And I think it's a 20-minute interview, and then they give you 10 minutes of feedback after. So there are a ton of resources out there for you to utilize as a student to make it sure when you come to a career fair or when you're looking for a job, all those things are lined up and ready to go.
Yeah, and given I'm starting my job now, I think some of the most beneficial parts about MSU that helped me get to where I am now is the fact that there were so many opportunities to do more than just study, right? Like being in part of clubs, working on campus, studying abroad, any of that sort of stuff really gave me more opportunities of things to talk about while I was interviewing. And then the fact that MSU is also located in the heart of Michigan, in Lansing, well, East Lansing, but next to Lansing, the capital. And so there are so many, you know, like small businesses that you can work with. There are, you know, state government things that you can work with. There are research centers. I interned at a research center for about a year and a half. And then that's kind of what led me into understanding like how to apply for jobs and have people look at my resumes and setting up a LinkedIn and all of that. So like really just kind of utilizing what's in the area and being able to really pursue what you're interested in and just trying out whatever's there to learn what your interests are.
So I saw another question about study abroad. Those are obviously great stories too. Do any of you want to share how you found your study abroad experience, how you felt prepared for that? I know that a lot of students are excited about doing them conceptually, but there's anxiety. I mean, and obviously you have to qualify right now. We know there are a lot of travel restrictions and things like that, but that will pass over time. And as we noted in the presentation, we have about 275 study abroad programs, and I think we're up to about 70 countries, all 7 continents. So any of you want to chat about study abroad?
Yeah, I'll say my 2 bits. I studied abroad twice. Once was with the US State Department. I went to China for 8 weeks, and that was for an opportunity to take classes in Mandarin. They were able to apply for my college credit, so that applied to my major. And then the second time was because you know, I'm also an out-of-state student from Illinois. I got that $3,000 to $5,000 out-of-state scholarship, and it was literally my last semester of college, and I realized that I still hadn't used it. And so I went to the the study abroad advisor, and I was like, "What's your list of study abroads that I can do over spring break that are under $3,000?" And so I went to Guatemala, and it cost me $2,100. So I gained $900 from the scholarship because they just deposited in your account. And honestly, that was like one of the best experiences because we worked with coffee farmers who are in Guatemala, and I understood a lot more about like supply chain. I understood what goes into fair trade and organic, and like what all the work that goes behind, you know, the cup of coffee that I have every morning. And it's something that like has honestly really changed how I view both food and really wherever my money goes now. So absolutely recommend studying abroad. I talked about it in all my interviews. I tell all my friends about it. My apartment is decorated with things from studying abroad now. So 10 out of 10 wherever you go, study abroad.
The summer after my freshman year, I studied abroad I was in London, Oxford, and then the Lake District. And then the Lake District is mostly just like northern England. But it was super cool because we were looking at different things in the environment and how they were fostering things along those lines, because my professor, he like was learning history. So like he's my history professor, but also it was in terms of like how like environmentalism has adapted over time. So looking at obviously like England isn't like that much different than the United States, but even just like the small steps that they take in everyday like culture and their daily life is like extremely important. And I was there for just over a month, and I took a lot back with me and still write about it in papers and essays and bring it up over dinner conversation all the time.
So we have about 2 minutes left. So we have one more question that I want to pose to the students here in the chat, but also for those of you joining us, if you have any other questions that you want to put in the Q&A, please do that. We won't answer them live, but we will follow up again, Steve and I. But our last question for the night is, how is the community around MSU? So can you talk a little bit about East Lansing and Lansing for our guests?
I mean, it's really easy to get to East Lansing, and that's great as a student because they have a ton of different places you can go out to eat, which is great. If you're ever feeling like you don't want to go eat at one of the dining halls, you can always just literally step off campus into the East Lansing area, and there are all the stores that you could really want to go to. And on top of that, there are other stores in the vicinity that I think you can take the buses out to as well if you want to go to Meijer or whatnot. But something else that's great is, at least when I was a freshman, they did a little bit of an introduction to some of that. We had this night called Meijer Madness, where they took us all out to like the nearest Meijer, and they had Sparty there. He was dancing, just a bunch of free stuff for students, but to kind of help you feel comfortable with venturing out and taking the bus system, because it is something that you might not be used to, but they really do a good job about that first introduction.
Yeah, I thought the MSU community is really great. It's definitely, I don't know if I would call it a college town because East Lansing is Michigan State, plus some odd, like some students that live off campus. And then everybody is very like go green. The whole community supports MSU, and I'm very proud to say MSU supports the whole community. There are students that intern everywhere from state government to national government positions that are located in East Lansing. There are student workers at places like Meyer and everywhere else. So at the end of the day, like you're just surrounded by, like there's MSU and then there's like the greater MSU area. And I think that's part of what makes MSU so great is that, you know, we're there for the community and the community is there for us.
Sylvia's going to cut us off because I think we're over time, but hey, everybody, go green.
Go white.
Go white.
Go white.
Hi.
Yes, thank you so much to our students for joining us this evening. And again, thank you for all of our participants in coming to learn a little bit more about MSU. Just to let you know, when you close this window, there will be a link to a very short 4-question survey. Again, I promise it's short. Please provide any feedback about the program. And as we mentioned, please feel free to visit IACAC.org if you want to sign up for any additional sessions or to view our recording of our presentation tonight. So again, thanks so much, and everybody have a wonderful evening. Bye.